Thank you guys for having me here. It's kind of an exciting time. You know, the stock market has lost 10% in the past month. People are kind of freaking out, but I think it can also be pretty healthy. You know, we've been in the midst of a 10-year bull market, so it's, you know, kind of only natural to pull back. Today, my topic is going to be talking about how to ride the marijuana boom in small caps. No matter that the market as a whole has dropped, marijuana stocks are still hot. In fact, they are the hottest sector that I've been trading in 2018. There seems to be a new marijuana stock or, you know, article or partnership announced pretty much every day, with Canada legalizing it and then certain states legalizing it. You know, this is a very exciting time, so it's good to talk about it. First, I have a whole legal disclaimer. I'm not a professional. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't buy any of the stocks I mention. I'm just trying to share with you what I've learned in 20 years of trading and now 10 plus years of teaching. I think it's good to talk about this stuff. Obviously, we had a lot of great speakers here over the next few days, and you know, it's amazing to see the diversity of strategies being applied to. And obviously, we know most strategies are not all going to be profitable at all times, so I think it's good to learn all of these different strategies so that you can test and you can tinker. In my experience, there is no one magic formula for getting rich. There is no one magic stock. The process of making, you know, 6, 7, 8 figures, 9 figures over time is small gains added up and controlling your losses. So as much as I'm excited about marijuana stocks and the entire sector and the opportunities in general, you also have to have a little bit of caution because the marijuana stock boom is not the safest or easiest to predict all the time. Like I said, this is the #1 sector in 2018 for me so far. And the year is not over. There might be a new sector. You know, last year it was Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and now that's pretty much dead for me. I just go with whatever sector is working. I try to stay open-minded. I try not to get too you know, comfortable with any one stock or any one sector, especially in small caps, because no matter how glitzy the management hype is or how optimistic anybody is, most of these companies do go lower over time. Most companies, especially in the small cap space, do fail. So you have to be aware of history and statistics. But that said, I have actually gone several months this year with no losses. I don't always go with no losses. Sometimes I lose 10, 20, 30% of the time, but the key is controlling the losses. But I bring up this slide just to show you that if you focus on what is hot, it's actually pretty amazing how, you know, you can kind of just ride the wave when there is momentum and you trade the same kinds of patterns, the same kinds of strategies. But like I said, let me just reinforce this. You cannot just buy and hold. I think too many people want this to be easier. You know, just buy a stock, hold it as the next Microsoft. It's never the next Microsoft. If you do buy and hold, you often end up just holding and hoping, especially in the small cap space. You know, you see a lot of amazing business models and expectations and hope for the future. And for a million different reasons, it doesn't always go as planned. Marijuana stocks or any other sector also. So I have to warn people, you know, management, every company, they're going to be very, very optimistic. They're going to give you best case scenario. That's what managers do. That's what, you know, management does in general. If you look at, you know, Bear Stearns, the day before they went bankrupt, I mean, the CEO or CFO was on CNBC saying everything was fine. Next day, bankrupt. So be very careful with what management has to say, especially in the marijuana industry where there's a lot of still legal questions to be answered. But for me, I do like to travel. Some people think like, oh, you know, you're just selling the dream. I'm actually living the dream. I've been to 17 countries this year. I've been to over 100 countries in my life. For me, traveling helps control my trading addiction. I'm not just a speaker here, I'm also an addict. You guys are my support group. So thank you for coming. Thank you for this intervention. I appreciate it. When I do presentations like this, I have to remind myself what works. And what works for me and what works for my students is keeping it simple. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So when you see pictures of me like on social media trading from crazy places, I actually do this specifically so that I do not overtrade. When the markets are on fire, when marijuana stocks are surging, it's very easy to just want to chase everything. And you have to control that, because if you do start to just chase whatever's hot, it often leads to losses. So this was me in Capri, Italy at Caesar Augustus Hotel, one of the best hotels. I highly recommend it. Good Wi-Fi too, nice view. So I like trading with a view because it keeps me kind of grounded. Like, I don't want to trade that much. I want to go out and explore. So I'm focused only on the absolute best plays. The hottest marijuana stocks are really easy to spot from afar. You know, there's thousands of stocks, hundreds of marijuana stocks, but how do you actually spot the best ones? You know, you can't just invest in the entire sector. That's not going to lead to much outperformance. So I want to focus on the biggest percent gainers. And lately, CBD beverage stocks have been on fire. Not just all marijuana stocks, but specifically where you put CBD oil or cannabis in stocks. I mean, there's so many different technicalities of, you know, hemp or CBD or marijuana. I just focus on whatever is moving. And CBD has been very hot as of late. I'm trying not to be biased. I think that we can all fall kind of prey to this, where we're like, oh, this has to work. This is the future of the industry. No one here, no one on TV, no one on Wall Street knows the future of any industry. And I know they make a lot of pie in the sky predictions about China and, you know, this technology and that. And I've just found the predictability of such events to be too low to really, you know, do anything to my bottom line. For me, I focus on whatever sector is on fire. Marijuana stocks, CBD stocks, big percent gainers. And as much as you want to work hard, you know, this is what's kind of interesting about trading, and especially small cap stocks, because there's not a great play every single second. You know, if we're talking about other sectors, other industries, you can trade or invest in a lot of companies that are moving. With small caps, there's a lot of big promises, a lot of hype, but most of the stocks don't really move that much. They're not very predictable. There's a lot of choppy charts. So as much as I want to work hard, I have to realize that successful trading is about being kind of counterintuitive, where I think of myself as a retired trader all the time. So I have no positions right now as I'm speaking to you. I only come out of retirement when there's a play that's good enough. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say as a full-time trader and a full-time teacher, but that mentality keeps me out of less setups. It keeps me out of over trading. It prevents me from trading a lot of companies that I might believe in, technologies I might believe in, maybe even stocks or charts or management that I believe in. But because I think of myself as a retired trader, I don't want to come out of retirement unless something is so amazing that I would feel guilty missing it. If you think about a lot of these sports stars, you know, who retire and they come out of retirement because they feel guilty. They're like, oh, I have to come out of retirement. And then some of them are good, some of them aren't. For me, that's how I want to think every single day. And that kind of weird thinking keeps me disciplined. Here's another office view. This is actually in Portofino, Italy. I highly recommend Europe, just because the stock market, the US stock market there opens up in the afternoon. I like to sleep. Who else likes to sleep? Show of hands. Yeah, clap your hands if you like to sleep. Sleeping is very underrated. I want to go long, all in on sleep. You know, I think too many people are short on sleep and they're underestimating how, I don't know. But Europe is fantastic. It's a great place to trade from. And this is the Splendido Hotel. I mean, the Wi-Fi is pretty good and the views are amazing. But I think too many people, you know, you want to make so much money, you want to be successful, and you work so hard, and you sit in these little dimly lit offices, and you're paying these insane prices in these big cities to go to, you know, networking events and stuff like that. And it's just like, you don't have to do that. The best plays will show themselves if you kind of understand what works. And we're getting to that. I just want you getting in the right mindset first. It's a little different the way that I attack the market. I don't want you to try to rationalize with the market either. I know a lot of sectors, again, might do well in the future. A lot of companies might do well. And so a lot of people say, oh, maybe I'm 6 months ahead or 3 months ahead of the curve and I'll be rewarded in time. That's very low predictability. And, you might be holding for 3 or 6 years and then forget about just the money that you're not making. You're missing out on the opportunity cost of other plays where you could be making it because those stocks are in play. They are uptrending right now. So I don't want you to just hold and hope. I want you to really focus on, whatever is hottest in the market. Like I said, marijuana stocks right now. And specifically low-priced marijuana stocks. I'll show you a few charts coming up, but the lower the price, the better for percent gain potential. If you look at marijuana stocks in the entire industry, it's very speculative. So with a speculative industry, for me, I want to buy and invest in speculative companies. Those have the most upside. Obviously, there are some marijuana companies that are more legit and higher priced. They have more partnerships and deals. I don't really want to trade those because I think that they're already valued or fully valued or partially valued. For me, I want to kind of trade these very speculative names when they have big breaking news, because when you trade low price marijuana stocks or any stock that's in play, you can get 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000% gains in a day or two. We've been seeing several stocks spike 500, 1,000%, not with like little volume either, but I'm talking volume of 30, 50, 100 million shares traded per day. So whether it's Bitcoin, which was last year, or marijuana stocks this year, I'm trying to focus on whatever sector is hot. And like I said, focus on the biggest winners. I know this is weird. A lot of people like the value plays. When a stock drops 50%, you're like, whoa, 50% off sale. I like this. But it's very different. When a stock drops 50%, it's a different company fundamentally than it was when it was, higher priced. When you have a stock drop that much, obviously there's some bad news. Something really happened, and it changes the composition of the company. It changes the characteristics of the stock. I want you to start thinking not just in terms of fundamentals, but in terms of how can you trade a stock that is easiest to trade and most predictable that leads to the biggest percentage gains. And I'm not saying the stocks that can go from 1 to 100. I'm saying the stocks that are volatile enough where you can relatively be sure to predict 5, 10, 20% gains, and you take those small gains along the way. That's my strategy over and over and over again. Again, the hottest stocks in the hottest sector, those are what I focus on. And it's very simple, but simple works. And ignore unchanged stocks and ignore big percent losers. There's a lot of companies out there that will say we have something on the horizon, but their stock is unchanged. And you might be interested in buying that stock because you're like, well, 3 or 6 or 9 months from now, there might be something that will push the stock up. So it's just a waiting game. Again, you can be waiting a very, very, very long time. And the best plans can, just not play out the way that you think. So there's usually a stock, especially right now, pretty much every day that's up at least 20, 30, 50, 100%. Those are the stocks I want you to focus on. When I focus on big percent gainers, I didn't always have this strategy. I've been tinkering with this thing for 20 years now. When I really began focusing on this strategy, purely just trading big percent gainers, it was like a lightning bolt on my account. Again, obviously, sometimes I'm wrong. I can't predict, every big winner. But when you look at the big percent winners first, and you realize that they can have legs for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, when they announce, a big contract or something that, shows that they're actually a legit, or maybe not even fully legit, but at least a growing company in a hot sector like marijuana, the stocks can run for several days. With low price stocks, because not a lot of people, not a lot of press focuses on this niche, there's an inefficiency. And if you can watch for the big percent movers and the breaking news, not necessarily breaking news like every second. You don't have to be glued to your computers. But a lot of the patterns that I see, I buy the stock on the first green day, when the stock finishes up 10, 20, 30%, and then the next day has a chance to go up 10, 20, 30% as more people see that news or more people see that breakout. I'm looking for which stocks have legs for several days, and it's actually quite a nice pattern, especially for marijuana stocks. I know this sounds easy, okay? I have been teaching for 10 plus years. I know what a lot of you guys are thinking right now. You're like, oh, just buy big breakouts. It's so easy. Everyone becomes a millionaire. It's not easy. This is all about discipline. And if you buy a big percent winner, it could still go down. It could be a fake out. Sometimes that stock goes up 50% in a day, then they do an offering the next day, and it's a toxic financing, and the stock drops 30%, and it opens down 30%, and there's nothing you can do about it. So there are risks, but again, for me, I'm trying to take the best odds again and again and again. But enough, strategy talk, enough high-level stuff. Like, let's talk about some actual trades, some actual charts. What I do first is look to sector leaders. Even though I'm not trading the sector leaders, these $50, $100, $200 stocks, I look at them because a lot of these speculative marijuana stocks tend to spike in sympathy. Everyone's looking for the next big thing. So if you do have a sector leader that has been running for several days, several weeks, several months, you have a lot of smaller companies that can be compared to them. And the message boards and social media and a lot of the traders just gravitate towards anything that's in play. You have to understand with small caps, there's like this whole kind of group of like hyenas. That's what I'm picturing, like a big group of hyenas from The Lion King, where they're just looking for scraps, Raise your hand if you remember the hyenas from The Lion King. A few people. There's going to be a live action Lion King coming out soon, so you'll get a refresher course. But there were hyenas that were looking for scraps. That's what hyenas do. And that's kind of like the small cap, low price stock market. They're just looking for anything in play. And if you can get a stock that has news, that has volume, that is breaking out to new highs, the hyenas will attack. And they'll buy it en masse, thus creating kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of pushing the stock even higher. So if you can kind of predict what the hyenas want, then you can beat the hyenas, because the hyenas aren't very smart. There's a lot of people in the small cap world, they're not making any money. They're just gambling addicts. They're like, the people in Vegas playing the penny slots. So they're not attending useful meetings like this. They're not being strategic with their investments. They're just gambling. And they can be useful to you if you are strategic and meticulous ahead of time, because those people, there's a lot of them, and they control maybe not huge amounts of money, but because there's so much of them, that is a big pool of money that can influence a stock. So let's look at some news. This was just in the past few weeks. Coca-Cola is dipping into the cannabis-infused drink market. This was one headline. This was another one. Constellation spending $3.8 billion to boost their stake in a cannabis grower. And then just a few days later, Diageo followed everybody into the cannabis space. So these three headlines, you have three gigantic multi-billion-dollar companies now dipping their toe in this very speculative sector. These three press releases lit the entire CBD beverage sector. It's not just weed stocks. I want this to be a very timely presentation. This has all been happening in the past few weeks. So this was the market leader. I'm not even going to say the company name, because to me, I don't care about the company. I know you'll have speakers here talking about the fundamentals, a bunch of stuff. I'm a trader. I just care about what I buy it at and what I sell it at and what is my profit. So this stock, it's called Tilray Inc. This is one of the hottest CBD stocks, but I just call it TLRY. If you kind of dissociate yourself from the company and you focus purely on what is a predictable chart where I can buy the stock at a certain price and sell it at a certain price higher, whether you want to hold for a few hours, days, weeks, or months, it doesn't matter. I'm just specifically looking to use these tickers to grow my account one by one. The way that I've made a lot of money, it's not on any one play. It's thousands and thousands of trades. My average trading profit is roughly $2,000. I'm not going to trade TLRY. This is just one of the hot sector leaders that a lot of upcoming small cap CBD plays want to be like TLRY. And it's important to note to look at this. It's been downtrending the past few days, but it had a hell of a ride from 30 up to 300. And this kind of a chart is what I love. This kind of boom and bust scenario where, for a few days back in September, this thing just couldn't go down. It went from 80 up to 300, literally in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trading days. 9 trading days. And the thing quadrupled. And guess what? When this stock quadruples, all the little wannabe TLRYs go up also. So you have to be aware of this. Here's another play, CGC, Canopy Growth. And this is a very, legit marijuana type company. Again, TLRY, CGC, these are the market leaders. But because this has gone up so much, this is just a 200-day chart. Okay? So when you have a stock that can go from 20 up to 60 in just a few months, that leads a lot of smaller cap marijuana stocks to be able to do something similar. And the beautiful thing, like I said earlier in the presentation, is that small cap stocks don't just triple or quadruple over 2 weeks or over 2 months. They triple or quadruple in a day or two. So you're basically playing a hot sector on steroids or on crack or with dynamite, whatever analogy you want to have. It's a lot more volatile with lower price stocks, and you have to be aware of that. Here is NBev, New Age Beverages, just a beverage maker that's getting into the CBD space. And each one of these candles represents 1 day. This is just a 50-day chart. And this stock, in the middle of the chart, in September, you can see it went from 2 all the way up to 10 in 1, 2, 3, 4 trading days. Quintuple your money in 4 days. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not. I was actually buying the stock in the 2s. I sold too soon. I did not hold for a quintuple or even quadruple or triple or even double. I take my 10 or 20% and I usually move on. I actually do better on dip buys. If we had more time, I could get into more technical stuff. Is there a question? Did I hear one? Maybe I'm just hearing my imaginary friend. Here's IGC. This is another CBD stock. And this one was crazy. This one went from the 2s all the way up to the 14s. And you can see this same kind of boom and bust type chart. This thing is back down to the 2s now. And this is just all in the past 50 days. So I want you to be aware of the upside, but also be aware of the downside. You cannot just hold this stock. You cannot just say, oh, marijuana is the future. CBD beverages are the future. This stock is in play. Let me buy it at 2. You hold till 15. You're all excited. You make 6, 7 times your money. And then a month later, you're back to break even. That's heartbreaking. Okay? So if you take one thing away from this talk, I want you to realize that A, there's a lot of volatility, a lot of opportunity. B, you have to be careful because it can go up and it can go down very, very quickly. And C, the way to making a lot of money over time, as you'll see in the next few slides, that my top students and I have learned, is taking 10, 20, 30% gains along the way. But recognizing this pattern, because this same exact pattern happened in Bitcoin, happened in cryptocurrency, happened in Ebola stocks, police equipment stocks, biotech, Chinese, shipping stocks. I've seen so many hot sectors come and go. Right now it's marijuana, that's why we're talking about it. But I don't care what marijuana companies do over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. I care about the stocks that are in play and how predictable they are if they have these perfect chart patterns. You can go even lower. I know, $2 to $15 is a low price stock to a lot of people. Here's PURA. This thing has gone up from 3 cents to 25 cents in just a few days. So this is nearly 10 times your money. There's a nice man by the name of Goldman who owns this company called Goldman Research, and he likes to put out hyperbolic research reports. I think this thing was trading at 8 cents and he put a 25-cent price target on it. And it's very confusing when your last name is Goldman. You might think that it's a Goldman Sachs research report, even though it's not. It's just a Goldman research report. And I'm a big fan of him because he has been hyping up these kinds of stocks for many years. And I love him. So if you know him, if he's here, props to Goldman. Let's continue putting out these ridiculous price targets because I can just ride the wave along the way. And I love it. although now this is down a little bit. You can see also the volume spikes quite a bit when the research report comes out, when the catalyst comes out, when the stock is in play. The volume was hardly anything in September, before the research report, before anybody really cared about this stock. That's how most low price and small cap stocks trade. Not much volatility, not much volume. I'm not interested when they're just a normal stock. I'm interested when they're in play. Here is HIPH. This is another one of these low price stocks. I'm running out of time here because I get a little excited talking about this stuff. But rule number one, trade whatever is hot, but don't hold and hope. Here is a chart of the whole marijuana index. If you look at ETFs, HMLSF, this is a good tracker of marijuana stocks. It actually has a nice little double top in play right now. So as we're doing this talk right now, you might want to be a little careful with holding anything in the marijuana space, especially with the overall market tanking. Volatile sectors tank even quicker. You do want to ride the wave up, but you don't want to stick around too long. And that's why, like I said, I aim for singles. Here's a chart of a typical weed stock. You saw this POTN spiking pretty big on the left-hand side. But guess what? After all the excitement, after all the hype regarding their revenues and potential profits, what has it done for the past 6-7 months? Nothing. Going straight down. And I know there are far too many small cap stocks with a similar chart where they spike up big for a few days and then it's just like this long downward spiral into oblivion. So don't just hold and hope because you will get caught in this. I actually call this chart pattern the crow because it kind of pecks away at your count day by day. I don't want you to just get stuck in this. And I know many of you guys are going to because we're human, like we're emotional, we're loyal. We want to be loyal to the management, we want to be loyal to the stocks, but I hope that you see, the way to make a lot of money is to not be loyal, to just take what you can and then move on to the next, because there is always something that is next. Here is an example, in case you don't believe me, if you think it's just me. This is my top student, Tim Grattani. We had a CNN article, 1,500 into $1 million in 3 years. If you think that's easy, that sounds easy, it's not. He made nothing his first 9 months. He was learning different patterns, different strategies. But when there were hot sectors, like marijuana stocks, he cashed in. This is his profit chart now. He's over $7 million in about 7 years. So I know it's not huge Wall Street money, but 1,500 into 7 million, that's pretty damn good. Here is his profits this year. He's a little over $1 million, and his biggest profit is $200,000 plus on a weed stock, CVSI. He actually bought it around 1, sold it at 230, and this is the chart. It actually went all the way up to $8 a share. So he hugely underestimated it, but he took a big position. He rode the wave for a while for him, which was like a month holding period of time. So I want you to see that the way that I've made a lot of money, and if you look at my trades or the way that my top students have made a lot of money, we're not perfect. We often underestimate how high these stocks can go, but at least we're on the right track. Like when I was buying NBEV in the 2s, selling it in the 2s, and then it went to 8, 9, 10 in just a few days after that. Here's my profit chart closing in on $5 million. I trade with a small account these days. I go back to my roughly $12,000, what I started with, and I try to grow that every year. So I'm up about $150,000 this year, and some of my biggest profits, $7,000. But these are my average profits, like $2,000, $3,000 over and over and over again. And I do have losses, but I cut my losses at $100 or $200. So I keep my losses very tight. I don't let a small mistake turn into a potential big disaster. So I know this sounds very simple. I know how it sounds. I get a ton of emails. I probably get more emails and messages than anybody. I've got 1.4 million followers on Instagram. I look at all the DMs. Everyone's like, this seems too good to be true. It's not too good to be true because you have to study and you have to be disciplined and you have to cut losses quickly. I'm wrong roughly 30% of the time when I buy a hot stock, whether it's a marijuana stock or Bitcoin stock or whatever. But when I'm wrong, I cut my losses and I don't hold and hope. And I've been to a lot of conferences like this and I can smell the hope and I can just I want to try to help you guys avoid that. I don't want you guys to have big losses. Big losses hurt your confidence, they hurt your account, they hurt your future, and there's no place for them. I've really clamped down on my big losses lately. I'm 20 years into trading now, so I'm feeling pretty good about my discipline. I might not have the biggest gains anymore, but I kind of, err on the side of caution, especially 10 years into this bull market. Like I said, this has worked for me and my top students, but it's up to you to utilize it for yourself. My top students and I have 5 millionaire students. None of us are very special. We're not very good at math. We're just kind of disciplined, and we work very hard at testing different patterns, cutting our losses, and focusing on the hottest stocks, which right now are marijuana stocks and CBD stocks. So the road to big profits is long, but small gains add up over time. And like I said, the key is focusing on hot stocks in hot sectors, which is marijuana right now.